Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast on your favorite podcast app and YouTube. The brothers Max in here with you. I'm Nate. That's Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And we are rolling on with our journey through the PWI 500 from 1995 this week. We're going to start at number 100. Try to get through 50 names in 90 minutes. We'll see how that goes. But I do want to remind everybody, if you are listening to the show on YouTube or any podcast app that you're listening to it, if you have not yet joined the WNR Podcast Network Facebook group, please do so. Right now, I'm actually doing a Greatest United States Champion tournament on there that you can vote on every single day. We have I post up 2 matchups, and we just started the first round. So if you're listening and you're not a part of our group, join our group. We like to have interaction with you, the listeners, and everybody there, talk about wrestling, etc., etc. Now, excuse me, get into this top 100, because last week, 101 was Shark. I have to be like the Dungeon of Doom promos and do that every time I say that name. Number 100 in the 1995 PWI 500. A guy that we've talked about at length lately, the past year or so, actually, on the Reliving the Extreme podcast. 1995 PWI 500. Number 100 is Brian Lee. I think in 95, I remember right, he was mainly doing USWA, because in 94 was when he was the fake Undertaker.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't do any Smoky Mountain in 95, did he?
No, I think he did. As far as I can remember, he did not. He kind of fucked Cornette over and just kind of left on him anyway.
I thought so. I didn't think he ever went back, but I couldn't remember 100%. I do remember him being in USWA in 95, and then, of course, 95.
No, they kind of cashed. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say late 95 into 96, then he's in ECW. But
yeah. Brian Lee kind of got replaced on that roster by Glenn Jacobs, like the big guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, all Cornette kind of won out in the end.
Yeah. Number 99, you're going to like this one. 5'7", 175, 10 years pro. It's Ultimo Dragon.
Yeah. Not in WCW yet, but just about to get there. And when he was active and on the plant, like an active wrestler, it's hard to say that he wasn't one of the top 10 wrestlers in the world, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. He was, I'd say for at least a 7-8 year period, he was one of the best in the world.
Yeah. And I know he's not a luchador, but I mean, and Ray had a bigger career than him or whatever, but there was a point where it's like, I'd rather watch this guy. And I know it's a different style, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather watch this guy than Ray in a lot of ways. But yeah, and plus, I don't think anybody masked wise looked cooler than that guy did. I don't think.
And it's funny that I say this, because I complain all the time now that there's too many titles in wrestling. But back then, it was cool when he had all those belts. It was just it was a cool visual that he had all those.
It was a cool visual, but they were also from different promotions from around the world. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have 8 titles from one company.
Yeah,
he had it showed it kind of like how they push Vader, where it's like, this guy's been a champion on every continent. You know, it's like, well, this guy's a champion in every fucking promotion that he goes into.
Right.
And it is cool when he has the draped over his arms and it was cool shit.
Number 98 is Fatu, 6'2", 260, 10 years pro. We're talking 95, so we're talking make a difference Fatu here. Actually, at the beginning of the year, he's still head shrinker, but then once Barbarian / Sione leaves, they turned him into make a difference Fatu.
And to this day, I still don't know what they say in his fucking song. Get it. I'll make a difference. Get it on. Hey. It's like, oh, what the hell was that?
Not one of Jim Johnston's finest.
No.
It's funny because he had that.
It's like the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say the Fatu make a difference thing is the classic thing that we have continually talked about 95. Like the gimmick itself is silly and ridiculous, but then you get him in the ring and he's just Fatu wrestling and it's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
But he's in the ridiculous fucking jacket and the hat and the.
Yeah. And they ended up bringing the guy singing the song back to do Tenzai's music. I said, hey,
who's that guy?
Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Is that the guy?
Is that the guy?
Is that the guy?
It's that guy.
Is that the guy? Like Tenzai's song was just about his something catastrophic happened, and it was somebody that did it, and they just didn't know who.
Well, the other funny thing about
like a shooting or something, it's like, whoa, oh god, is that the guy? There goes the guy. And it's kind of what Fatu's Make a Difference music did, but yeah, it was stupid.
It's kind of funny too when you like watch something from one year and then think about into the future. Like I'm watching early '96 right now, and on WWF Superstars, the recently debuted Ringmaster, not yet Stone Cold Steve Austin, faces Make a Difference Fatu, and I was like, and then like Ringmaster and Ted DiBiase kind of fuck over Make a Difference Fatu, and I was like, man, Fatu like 4 years later could have been like, I remember Austin.
Yeah, I was trying to make a difference.
Trying to make a difference.
And you ended all that. I was trying to be for the children. And you fucked it over.
But yeah.
I decided to go into a life of silence.
Yeah.
And not speak.
I was like Bane and shit.
Yeah. My tongue was figuratively cut from my mouth.
I'm a bad man.
Now I make people toss my salad. It's all your fault.
Number 97 is Marcus Alexander Bagwell. I know. But like I've discussed on the show before, I like young tag team wrestler Marcus Alexander Bagwell. His team with Patriot, his team with Too Cold. I'm not a fan of Buff. I actually didn't even mind the American Males. I thought their music was stupid. But I'm a fan of Marcus Alexander. I'm a fan of Mark Bagwell as a tag team wrestler, I guess. As a young tag team wrestler. He was fine.
I'll give you that, but he was always the He was always kind of the, I don't know, the lesser of whoever he teamed with too. I mean, that's how it was for me.
Number 96. We talked about Jerry Sags last week. Number 96 is Brian Knobbs, the other half of the Nasty Boys. And like we said last week, 95, Nasty Boys were having good matches with Harlem Heat, the Blue Bloods. They were just generally, doing some, I think honestly in 95, they were doing some of their best work. It sounds wild, but the Nasty Boys are one of those teams where you get what you get depending on who they're facing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like you put them in there with the guys they want to go with, they're gonna go. Like you put them in there with the Hart Foundation, they're gonna have a great match. You put them there with
the Awesome
Disorderly Conduct or the Awesome Kongs, it's like, well, this is gonna suck.
Number 95.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say the Nasty Boys didn't really, I don't want to say it, like they didn't make guys work up to them. They worked down to whoever they were in there with, I think.
Yeah. Number 95, 5'11", 235, 11 years pro, Masahiro Chono.
Masa My Hero Chono. He's called the NWO.
Bischoff called him Masa My Hero Chono. The guy, that guy, he's
the guy.
I would say honestly, I think Masa Chono is one of my easily one of my top 5 favorite Japanese pro wrestlers of all time. He was also a guy that transitioned well to the style over here.
Well, he had the size and the look for it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he had the. And it doesn't matter to me because I don't necessarily always say like you get the flash, but he didn't have the flash of like a great mood or whatever. So I don't think that's why he's not. I think that's why part of the reason he's not talked about as much as some of the other guys that came over here. Like he didn't have like the flash of like Ultimo or the Mudas or the guys like that. So
yeah, like I always say on the show, I'm not a huge, and it's not that I think it's bad. It's just that I've never taken a lot of time to watch a lot of Japanese wrestling. It's just not something that I do. But I can say for the Japanese imports that I've seen wrestle here in the States and footage that I have seen from him in Japan, I can say that I really enjoyed Chono and thought he was pretty fucking tits.
I would agree with that.
94, Johnny Grunge.
Yeah.
Of course, Public Enemy in the ECW at this time still. One of Paul Heyman's, I would say, as far as ECW goes, one of Paul Heyman's greatest creations, Public Enemy. You can't deny, we say it on Reliving the Extreme all the time, even though we like to fucking shit on them a lot. You can't deny they were over with that fucking crowd.
I mean, I'm not going to say they weren't, but I just...
I actually don't mind Rocco Rock.
As a worker, Rocco Rock is awesome.
Petty. Johnny Grunge stunk, but
yeah, and that crowd, they were over with that crowd, which is fine. You can say that, but I think a lot of ECW guys, a testament can be to what it's like when they leave ECW. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And once they left ECW, they were all fucking wet shark in WCW. In WWF, it was like, oh my god, it was And then by the time they made it back, they didn't even want them then. So I don't know. To me, out of all like the ECW like acts that everybody talks about and everything like that, I think they're the weakest of the whole thing. And I know part of it might be because they were the first like creation or whatever of Paul, But to me, it's like, meh.
Number 93 in 1995. He really didn't do a lot in 95, but it's whatever. Rick Martel. So I know in 95 he was in the Royal Rumble. And then he made
come back.
Well, and he would do that with the WWF though in the early 90s, like 93, 94, and 95. He would just kind of like, you'd think he was gone, and then he'd just be on a random Raw. You know what I mean? Like, there's the model Rick Martel.
So I wonder if you could go back and look at like the house show stuff. I wonder if he was like doing that mainly.
Maybe working with the younger guys or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was
high in 95.
He was a rabbit they'd pull out of their hat when they needed a heel to be on the card or whatever. But
I'm not sure why he's ranked so high in 95.
I'm assuming since it's the Kayfabe magazine, probably just name recognition,
Yeah. Well, what does this blurb say? Anything?
French Canadian veteran is currently wrestling in several independents. Then it talks about that he's a former AWA champion and he competed in the 1995 Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's probably wrestling Tito Santana on the independents, the feud that would never end.
Yeah.
92. Meng, 6 foot 294, 18 years pro. Of course, at this point, he is with Colonel Robert Parker. Meng was funny because, like, if you watch Haku Meng, if you watch him in WCW, they would always try to put some kind of a hat on him or a robe or a helmet or something. And then eventually he was just like, just let him fucking be. Just let him be Meng.
Yeah.
You put him in a fucking kimono for her.
His Dungeon of Doom hat was horrible, like the big head.
Yeah, the big head.
I have a feeling he probably put the kibosh to that. Was probably like, all right, I'll try it. And then
What
he's
am
like,
I?
I ain't wearing that
What am I,
anymore.
the fucking Mantar?
Yeah, I don't know what this. I don't even know what the head was supposed to be. You know what I mean? I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know what this thing is. It was bad. But it's like you said though, like about make a difference Fatu. Take the big hat off of him and then he's Haku, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's still gonna kick your ass and always intimidating, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of cool when he was with Parker because it was like something you wouldn't expect, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
91, 6'1", 265, 11 years pro, Dr. Death, Steve Williams. Let's see what he was doing here. Wrestles almost exclusively in Japan. These days, Dr. Death is renowned for incredible strength, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, pretty much doing Japan in 95. Because I don't think, him and Gordy don't come into ECW until 96.
Yeah.
Perry Saturn, Doc and Gordy, Gordy and Doc.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. It's gonna be funny because I think we're gonna plow through a lot of these guys because they're. It's like, what do you need to say? There's nothing to make fun of, obviously,
Right.
you know. But what else is there to say about Dr. Death that hasn't already been said, you know?
Mm-hmm. Number 90s, Rocco Rock. We already talked about Public Enemy. Number 89, we talked about his partner and brother last week. It's 5'11", 250, 5 years pro, Booker T. And again, back to the conversation about Booker T and Stevie Ray. Great tag team. Again, we discussed it when talking about them, and the Nasty Boys. Had great matches in 95 with the Nasty Boys, the Blue Bloods. WCW's 95 tag team scene was all right.
Yeah.
It
was probably the best thing it had going at the time.
Yeah. Because 95 WCW main event wise and stuff's pretty rough. I mean, at least as far as stories go and everything. Like,
yeah, that and the infancy of the cruiserweight division are probably the only things that's really fun for 95.
Yeah, other than that, it's the Hogan Boys Club, pretty much.
Yeah. Nitro was the same show every week. I mean, there was good stuff on Saturday night because you got to see the actual guys like Bobby Eaton and shit like that, you know. But like WCW Nitro in 95, it's like this is the same show every week.
Where's Lex Luger's loyalty lie, brother?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because we talk about a lot about how like Hulk Hogan's like, if you look at his history in wrestling, he's actually a heel and he's a terrible friend.
Yeah.
Sting's a fucking idiot.
Like, he's a moron.
His Sting gets duped and turned on by everybody that he comes in contact with. Everybody he thinks
multiple times.
Just like, yeah, he's just like that guy. It's like, no, he's my friend.
Like when they Flair, I swear to God, if you turn on me, it's like he's gonna turn on you.
He's gonna turn you. He's Ric Flair. He hates your stinking guts.
You're already even saying it. Like I feel like you're probably gonna turn on me.
All right, we'll talk about Sting when we get to Sting. But you're right about the WCW 95. Number 88, Erwin R. Shyster, otherwise known as IRS, 6'3", 248, 14 years pro at this point. I am not a big I'm definitely not a Microtunda fan. I'm actually, I hate to say it. I'm like, I like Rick Steiner as a wrestler, and I know it might be sacrilege to some people and to say, oh, what the fuck? I'm not even a big Varsity Club fan. I'm just not a fan. But Rotunda, the only thing, like Rotunda is boring. And the only thing that made IRS good was when he would be smug with the crowd. Like Vince found something that Mike Rotunda could do that wasn't super boring. Like You know what I'm saying? Like when he'd come out and be like, every tax cheat in Providence, Rhode Island showed up tonight. I mean, that shtick was fun, but.
And it's funny because sometimes like, how do I want to say it? Like, he was there, what, 4 years, 5 years? The IRS came in, what, 91?
91. He came in 91.
And he
Or
left in
no.
96.
Yeah, he came in 91. Or, yeah, summer of 91, he came in. And he left
And he
in
left in 96.
late 95.
Okay. So that's what, 5 years, 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed like he was there forever. You know what I
Forever.
mean? It's like
Yeah.
4 years in wrestling is like 10 years in real life.
But you're right. Yeah. It seems like he's just part of so much of WWF history.
Like more of, yeah, like I'm saying, like more of his career was out of that company than was in that company. But when you see Mike Rotunda, you're like, oh, IRS. There he is.
Yeah, and in 95, he at number 88 here, 95, like I said, he's a tail end of his run in the WWF. He's in the corporation, but he's one of the corporation's funny because there were revolving members and guys would be like moved into like a big, huge main event feud with The Undertaker or Shawn Michaels or whoever they were feuding with. And then once that feud was over, they'd be fucking jobbing within a week. Still, DiBiase is their manager, but now they're just a jobber, you know. 87 is Psychosis. See, what did Psychosis do here in 95? Defeated El Hijo de Santo for the Mexican welterweight title. His win catapulted him to superstardom in AAA, Daredevil style, comparable to Sabu or Jushin Liger, but has better ring speed than both. Psychosis was one of the core, they used all the core guys to get the luchador thing up and running in WCW when Bischoff first, jump started that, but we're a little bit before that at this point.
Yeah. It would have been just about, 95? Like, so that would have been ECW.
And yeah, at some point in 95, they have I think it was 90. It was either 95 or early 96 that the Rey Mysterio Psychosis matches happen at the arena.
Yeah. And that's where Eric stole that from.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, it's just Psychosis deserves to be talked about in that discussion. But I mean, there's a lot of guys I think that don't get enough credit, and just because whatever, but like, I don't know. I don't know if maybe now that there's actually wrestling fans running in the WWE, maybe that'll start changing. I don't know, but
yeah,
see some of those guys get a ring and some acknowledgement or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And it would be nice to see some of that, especially. Mm-hmm. Number 86. Number 86 is one of those guys. It amazes me. It absolutely amazes me that this dude never had a run with Vince. And it's Scott Norton.
I actually read an interview with him.
Okay.
And he had like 3 dark matches with the WWF. And they offered him money,
mm-hmm.
and he would have made more going back to Japan. And he counter offered and didn't even, I guess, ask as much as he wanted, like, that he was getting.
Mm-hmm.
He felt like he got lowballed, so he counter offered. And I think he said like Vince McMahon was just flabbergasted that somebody would like counter offered and just didn't sign with him.
What?
Yeah, and he thinks it offended Vince, and Vince just never wanted anything to do with him after that.
Never knew that story. Because, yeah, like I said,
I didn't either.
All these years I've been like, all the people that they got their hands on, this guy looks like he would fit into the mold.
Yeah. So I don't know if, like I said, if it was just like he almost made it sound like Vince thought he should have been grateful they were like offering it to him. You know what I mean? And he was still like, I could make a shitload more money in Japan than what you're paying me now. Just pay me this amount at least.
And then I'm sure once he got into WCW, he was okay with that deal because WCW let him work in Japan.
Yeah, WCW didn't mind that shit, you know. But yeah, Vince wasn't gonna let you do that. It was kind of the same thing. It's not the same thing, but similar to like Scott Hall. That's what he wanted to do. Like Vince was like, I'm not gonna pay you more money, so he was like, well, then let me be able to go to Japan, and Vince said no.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, well, I guess I'm gonna go to WCW then.
Well, then I guess you failed a drug test, pal. Actually, it was interesting. When I was watching sometimes when I watch stuff, I also look on like that history of WWE.com as maybe I'm watching a week that has a Raw and a Nitro in it. And I'll look on that history of WWE.com and see what the house shows were that week and what the business, what the attendance was like and stuff. They actually filmed a segment because if you remember, Razor was a tag team partner with Savio Vega in that tag team tournament. And then they changed it because he got suspended because he gave his notice. Say what you want, whether he conveniently failed a drug test or not. But it was kind of funny reading through that history of WWE.com on the last TV taping that he did, like Superstars taping or whatever. They actually filmed a segment with President Piper telling Razor Ramon that he was going to have a Miami street fight in Miami with Goldust at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he got suspended, so then they turned it into the backlot brawl with Roddy Piper. Yeah. But all right, number 85, kind of like Martel. 85 is Greg Valentine in 1995. He's pretty much working indies, wrestling Tito Santana.
Yeah,
Tito Santana just went on a tour and wrestled all the heels of the 80s.
Pretty much. Well, he's the biggest baby face that can still work that they got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody else is in WCW.
Yep, it's the only baby faces that are out there, the big baby faces that are out there on the indie scene that WCW hasn't snatched up are Tito Santana and Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah. And it's crazy they never did. Well, Snuka was a loyalist. I guess Tito was too.
Yeah, it's so funny that like Tito never worked for WCW until Vince Russo was there. Yeah,
he did it once.
Did that cage thing with Jarrett. Anyway,
it was stupid.
Number 84. Wonder if this guy will ever amount to anything. Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yeah.
He's 95. He first comes in, and he plays it up so like overacting with the snobbishness, but it's actually really funny. Like the first week that he's gonna be making a promo on Superstars, he's sitting in like his little chair by a fireplace or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And they're playing the music, and Vince McMahon goes, "Oh, we're joined by newcomer Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Mr. Helmsley, you're on your way to the World Wrestling Federation. What do you think of the competition? What do you think's going to happen with whatever you with the comp?" And the Hunter looks at the screen like he's looking at Vince, and he makes like this guy stinks face or whatever, and then he just looks away. He just looks away and doesn't say anything, and Vince goes, "Okay." I don't know. It's you have to see it to see how actually.
I remember it.
Is. Okay.
It was a how do I say it? Out of the 95 cast like cavalcade of characters or whatever, it wasn't one of the worst ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
And he was like Taker. He took what they gave him and then worked with it and then evolved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He took that
definitely.
very basic cookie cutter character and turned it into, he added complexity and stuff to it.
Yeah, totally agree, and made it one of the made it the I don't know. I mean, hard to say. I mean, how do I say it? There might be bigger in-ring careers or whatever, but he's got he might have the greatest run in the history of the
Yeah, no shit.
WWE.
No shit.
Greatest run ever, man. Fuck all your belts. I'm in charge.
I literally replaced Vince.
Yeah. I went from carrying these guys' bags and their bodies, like from the van to the hotel, to now I'm everybody's boss.
Mm-hmm.
So greatest run in the history of the WWE might be Triple H.
This is totally off topic, but we're talking about 95 and 96. And from watching the stuff as I am right now, for all the shit, for all the things that anybody said in any of those skits, those Billionaire Ted skits, you know, even the I'm old and bold and like all of the stuff that's kind of comedic in those skits. Do you know what I think is the absolute funniest line in any of those skits?
What's that?
There's a reason for it. It's because it's about the ego and it's the way he says it. All right. You know, all of the accusations, right, that are being thrown at Billionaire Ted. There's that one press conference he comes out and he goes, all right, before we start anything, I want to make two things perfectly clear. I'm not a hillbilly and I don't wear cheap suits. It's like that's what he is worried about the most. He is, I am not a hillbilly
Not a
and I
hillbilly.
don't wear cheap suits. Shit pops me every time.
I was actually talking to somebody about him the other day. I don't know why it got brought up. Oh, I know it got brought up about how like people hate on people because they have money. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing I don't unless they're being like a shithead about it, like a scumbag. I hate when people like hate people just because they're rich. You know what I mean?
They earn their
It's like,
money.
oh, that person's successful and I'm not. It makes me mad. It's like people would say shit like that about Ted Turner. It's like that guy inherited a, mind you, successful billboard company and turned it into that. You know what I mean? I don't think he gets enough credit for being the businessman and the fucking hustler he was,
Right.
in my opinion. But that's a different story for a different day.
Number 83 is Tom Pritchard. Tom Pritchard, let's see. By the time this one is published,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's still heavenly. I don't think they start the Bobby Donna thing until early 96 or maybe way
No,
late.
they would have still been the Heavenly Bodies and been in WWE or WWF and Smoky Mountain.
Yeah.
Like they transitioned from Smoky Mountain to WWE or WWF at this time. He doesn't become a Body Donna until 96.
Yeah, it's very early 96. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they do it quick with that too. Like they put him with Skip, and then like within like 3 weeks they have a tag title shot at the Royal Rumble because the WWF had shit for tag teams at that time. So it was like
I think sorry.
Essentially the WWF tag team division for most of 95 was just if it wasn't or 94 and 95, if it wasn't Yoko and Owen as champions, it was just every heel tag team that came in got a shot at the Smoking Guns within like 3 weeks of their debut.
And it was also like the Body Donna thing happened because both guys, and I guess I didn't realize this until I started thinking about it more. Both guys lost their tag team partners basically at the same
At
time.
the same time, yeah.
Like Jimmy Del Rey got fired for that shall not be mentioned or whatever that happened with him and Tatanka in that hotel room. And then so he got fired. Louis was supposed to become a body Donna and they got rid of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. And they lost both their partners and they had these two guys and it's like fuck it. Let's rib Tom and put him with Chris and Tammy. Said he hated it. Said he really liked Chris, but fucking hated working with Tammy.
I don't doubt it. 82, Big Bubba Rogers. The referee right there wasn't even supposed to be in that ring.
It's my least, and I hate saying it because I love Ray Traylor, but that 95 Big Bubba is like my least favorite time of that guy's career. I thought it
Yeah.
was kind of boring. It's
Let
just
me
boring.
think. I actually don't mind 95 Big Bubba. I'm not a big fan of NWO Big Bubba. I don't know. I don't mind 95 Big Bubba. He had like good matches with Sting and
No,
I
I
don't
just
know.
thought the character. I thought the character was boring, and I don't know. Like it's like I don't know. Maybe it was because he wasn't as big as he was. This sounds funny. Maybe it's not as big. It's because he wasn't as big as he was when he was Big Bubba the first
Yeah.
time. But like,
He's
I don't think
medium
the
sized
suit.
Bubba.
Yeah, I didn't think the suit wasn't as intimidating looking and shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seemed like an outdated gimmick at the time too. I just don't know. Not saying the matches weren't good. I'm just saying the character to me was that was the most boring Ray Traylor ever was for me.
Number 81, I'm going to go ahead and read the description for him because some listeners might not be familiar. You know, some of these names, like people are like, yeah, you don't need to tell me what Big Bubba's doing or whatever. Some people might not be familiar with what's going on with this dude at this time. 81 is Bruiser Bedlam, 5'10", 270, 10 years pro. Rough Brawler is a former Midwest Territory heavyweight champion, is now feuding with Marty Jannetty and Al Snow. Competed last year in Smoky Mountain Wrestling under Jim Cornette's guidance. Managed in MTW by Handsome Johnny Bradford, wrestling's only deaf manager. Has had some wild matches against Al Snow, Cactus Jack, and Dan Severn. Bruiser Bedlam.
Oh, compact, badass soul wrestler. I
Mm-hmm.
don't mean little. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like he's as tall as he is wide type of guy, you know. Not somebody you want to fuck with either.
The what I saw of him in Smoky Mountain, I didn't mind him. I thought he was good.
Yeah.
80, number 80 is one of the gimmicks that I really like from the 90s. It didn't work out. It didn't work out not because of anything political. It didn't work out not because of anything, even with the click or anything for this guy. It worked out because by the time this happened, his body was broken down. It's Waylon Mercy. Dan Spivey, that gimmick's the only thing Dan Spivey ever did that I really liked. I thought it was fantastic. I thought he did a great job with it. You know, I'm gonna do the WWF superstars. This way, I'm gonna do this bug. I'm gonna squish them.
Smash him, squish him. Yeah,
Um,
and like I
but
liked
yeah,
it, and
he was broke down at this point and just couldn't. He had to literally had to retire because his body just couldn't do it anymore.
yeah, and I wish he wouldn't have had to for one. But I also thought it's like, yeah, his body's broke down, and they got to do it. It's like, but his character would have even worked as a non-wrestler.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Mm-mm.
just like being like a manipulative shit, like a manager or shit. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense or not.
Mm-hmm.
but like as a side character or whatever, I think it would have worked. Like give him a segment, even that type of thing, you know,
Right. Right.
like an interview segment where like set up the stage and make it look like you're sitting out on the rocks on that river thing that he did or what.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have worked.
As a
But
manager, you could if as a manager, because as a manager, he's a tall guy, so you don't really want your manager to be taller than his proteges. But you know what you could have done with him as a manager? You could have done the Ron Wright thing with him, put him in a wheelchair.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
character.
and you could set somebody up to, yeah, it would have been great for him to be in a wheelchair. But you could set like Robert Parker was big as a big motherfucker too, but it worked with him, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But I just think that character had legs that he could have done more with it, even though he couldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also a guy that you hear about his career and look at his career, he's never happy anyway, wherever he's at.
Yeah.
So
Number 79. Another guy with the 95 syndrome that we're talking about. Had great matches, great wrestler. They saddled him with a goofy gimmick. Jean-Pierre Lafitte, the wrestling pirate.
yeah, dumb gimmick, great worker.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic matches with Brett in 1995. It's funny because, again, you get to these fantastic matches, but why are they fighting? He stole my coat.
He stole my jacket.
What is this? Oh, okay. Sorry, I read the wrong line. Go ahead. Did you have anything else to say about Jean-Pierre Lafitte?
Well, and it's like, I don't know. If how do I say it? Like, like there's those guys in the business that you just know they're liars, you know?
Yeah.
Like Hulk Hogan, he's a liar. You know, Billy Graham was kind of a liar, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know for sure, but like, would you consider Kevin Nash to be an honest guy?
Kevin Nash is brutally honest.
Because he always says that they didn't hate, like he's like, we didn't hate the pirate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like we thought the pirate was a good worker, but they just said like what it was all just because of that whole shit where he didn't, that French Canadian pride where he didn't want to put a French Canadian, didn't want to put somebody over in
Mm-hmm.
his home Providence or whatever. It's like at the end of the day, I'm the fucking champ.
Right. And if there is a guy, that I can say I think is New Jack, Kevin Nash, probably Raven are the three guys that I think. I know they say they're wrestlers and wrestlers are always working you, but I'm saying is those three guys. I don't think they are because they're so brutally. They don't give a fuck. They're not trying to give an image. Kevin Nash isn't trying to. He's not like Hulk Hogan where he has this image he wants to keep or whatever, or this legend he wants to be. Kevin Nash is like, yeah, I had 5 moves. Yeah, that big fucking Mabel. Big fat fuck, he fucking hurt me. I try, and he's not like Hogan, where Hogan's like the giant was 600 pounds. He's not still trying to kayfabe it or whatever. Now, Kevin Nash, if he says it, I pretty much believe him because he's pretty brutally honest.
His whole thing was he said he like that whole list of people, they said they made were like get rid of these guys, keep these guys,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like he's like we wanted to keep the pirate, we liked the pirate, but then he pulled that shit, and they were like he's not a team player, you got to get rid of him. So I don't know. Maybe if he would have done that, maybe his career would have been different.
Possibly.
But he's got probably one of the most unique gimmicks in the history of wrestling now. So God bless him.
Number 78. I know why he's on the 500, but I don't know why he's so high. It's Billy Jack Haynes. He had kind of made a return in 95 to the USWA.
It's funny. Nobody knows why he's really that high, but he just is.
Stone cold piece of shit.
Stone cold piece of shit with my blonde toupee wig.
But yeah, he pretty much was in USWA for a while in 95. So that's old Billy Jack.
Like Everybody acted like it was so shocking when he ended up killing that lady. It's like he's been crazy forever.
And I was never a Billy Jack Haynes fan ever.
I'm not a Billy Jack Haynes fan either. That guy always sucked. And then when he started doing those shoot interviews, have you ever watched his? Like his
Yeah.
the insanity.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, that video I found of that Stone Cold piece of shit thing. Like it's like, oh my god, this guy is. I'm a bigger fan of Dementia Billy Jack Haynes
than regular Billy Jack Haynes.
than regular Billy Jack Haynes. That Stone Cold piece of shit promo is the best promo that guy ever cut.
If you haven't heard it, folks, look it up on YouTube. We've actually there's an episode of our show where I don't remember what episode it was, but we definitely have played it. It might have been one of the Hall of Shame episodes, but
he's got no teeth and a blonde lady wig.
He's cutting a promo on Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Number 77 is Jimmy Del Rey. Of course, one half of the Heavenly Bodies. Probably his highlight of 1995 is when he did the gyrations, and Shawn Michaels was like, "Ew,
stinky,
you stinky,
stinky." Hell of a worker. I just always heard that he was kind of somewhat of a creep.
Yeah,
but if we're just gonna base it off, right? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, kind of a creep in real life, but Heavenly Bodies were a good tag team, and he played up the gigolo thing. He knew Jimmy Del Rey knew he was not a good-looking gentleman.
Yeah,
and he played it up.
So good for him.
76 is Bob Sparkplug Holly. At least at this point, he's not Thurman Sparky Plug anymore.
Thurman Plug. I just remember that. He's like, my name. So my favorite stories is like, people are like, oh, what do you do, man? You're a big guy. Like, oh, I'm a wrestler. What's your name, man? You're a wrestler? I had to tell people, yeah, I'm a wrestler. What's your name? I never heard of you. Like, what is it? Thurman Plug. He's like, then they just look at you and just all the excitement about meeting this wrestler would just drain off their face because they met a guy named Thurman Plug.
Thurman Plug.
So he was like, "Can I at least be Bob Sparkplug Holly?" Like, because Vince was the spark plug was the gimmick. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, that's what he was saying. Like the shirt, I see the shirt, the spark plug on the shirt. He's like, just make me Bob Sparkplug Holly. To introduce myself? I'm signing things. Thurman Plug, for Christ's sake.
Why is first of all, who's ever been named Thurman? Second, why is my last name Plug?
Plug. Yeah. Could you imagine if that would have made it to like 96, 97? And his last name is Plug. And he's got to go out there and do something with like Triple H or Shawn Michaels. Butt would be everywhere. There'd have been signs. Thurman Butt Plug. It would have happened.
They should have. Too bad Alex Porto wasn't around when he was Thurman Plug. They'd have been like, it's Plug versus the Pug.
It's Pug and Plug. The tag team Pug and Plug.
Pug and Plug. 75. All over the place in 95. Brutus Beefcake. He started as the Butcher, and he was the Zodiac. I don't think he actually became the Booty Man until 96, but at one point he was the Man with No Name, which is a name. We were both thinking the same thing there. Fucking Beefcake. All right, 74. Gary Albright. 6'4", 357 years pro, excellent amateur career, consistently at the world's top 10 international stars, dominates the UWFI. To be honest with you, I have not watched a lot of Gary Albright myself.
I've watched some. I don't remember who's kid is his in that lineage, but he was in with the Samoans, like married into that. I can't remember who.
Damn it. Yeah. Ah. The kid worked for the WWF.
Huh?
But
Well, I know one of his kids did. He was that Gunner Scott guy.
Yeah.
But if I remember right, he was in. All right, here it is. He's he was married to Afa's daughter. I just had to look it up. I couldn't remember, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't an idiot. But yeah, he was part of the Samoan group through marriage.
Yeah.
He was only holy shit. I didn't know that. I think you know why you didn't see a lot of his career. He was only 36 years old when he died. He had a heart attack.
Damn.
And and he debuted in '88.
Yeah. Well, I think he wrestled mostly in Japan, which again.
But I'm saying, like, at this point, I mean, maybe he would have made it a couple of more years. Maybe he would have, like, wound up here or whatever.
Yeah. 73 is Doug Gilbert. What's Doug doing in 95? I think USWA. Still reeling from the unexpected death of his brother Eddie, suspended for an indefinite period of time from the USWA for attacking several wrestlers with a crutch. Former USWA Southern champion, currently wrestling in Japan and in the USWA. Also competed for a while as the Dark Patriot. What's that?
He's not going to make it very much longer there. That's when he gets mad and cuts that promo. I don't know if you ever seen it or not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Or he says, like, Randy Hales was too busy in the back smoking crack and makes pervert jokes about Jerry Lawler and everything. Yeah. He's not going to last much longer.
Doug was a wild man.
Yep.
Speaking of wild
men, his brother, man, they didn't believe in the philosophy of don't burn bridges.
Right.
They believed in the philosophy of let's, like, Baltimore bridge that shit.
72 is Buddy Landel. Or as he's called in the last pay-per-view, or not the third to last pay-per-view in the WWF for the year, Buddy Rondell, by that fucking lousy ring announcer, that lousy 95 ring announcer.
Hey. He has to introduce him twice too, because like he introduces him, and then they're like, "What are you doing?"
No, Vince literally goes, "What is going on?" Like Vince, like very very rarely does Vince like go into boss mode when he's broadcasting. But yeah, that guy's like nothing's going on, and that guy's just like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Buddy Rondell." He calls first. He doesn't say Landell, he says Rondell, and then there's silence, and then Vince is like, "What is going on?"
And then he has to go back and say it like the student Buddy Rondell or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't even introduce him then. He doesn't even introduce him then because Dean Douglas comes out to introduce, because he's supposed to wrestle Ahmed Johnson, but he got injured.
Yeah.
So Dean
Douglas. I know the whole situation.
So that dude doesn't even ever introduce Buddy Landell. Dean Douglas does. I love it when Vince is like, "What is going on?"
Like he stooged the whole thing, like say, "Oh, like it was supposed to be a surprise that Buddy Rondell was there anyway."
Buddy
and this guy goes and stooges it. It's like, what the fuck is happening? That Paul Neighbor, that's like kind of like that Paul Neighbors guy, like in the old USWA, that manager or that referee guy.
Yeah.
Like he's got this feud going on with like Lawler and all these other people, and they're like, Memphis is live,
Yeah.
Well, he goes out there, and this is when McMahon was coming down there. And it's like the middle segment of like breaking down this feud, and Neighbors is like, and that's why my good friend Vince McMahon is gonna be here. And Dave's like, "Oh man, you spoiled the surprise!" Like they hadn't announced that Vince McMahon was going to be at the arena. Like they were building up to it, and this guy just must have either forgot where he was at on the show or that thought they already said it. But yeah, this guy's like,
Oh
"That's why
man.
Vince McMahon will be there." Like they were going to show this big video and be surprised that Vince showed up, and this guy's the guy that like fucked it up and announced it like 4 segments before it was even supposed to happen. And Dave's even like, "Oh man, you messed it up."
Let's see. Number 71, Abdullah the Butcher. I don't think
Yeah.
he's even really doing anything in 95. They probably just put him on there for name recognition.
I think he was doing indies and stuff because isn't this about the time when him and Balls Mahoney had that like shit, like that crazy fire accident or whatever
Yeah,
that was
you're
on
right.
magazines
You're
for a
right.
long time?
Yep. Had his chest severely burned by a Buddha Singh in 1994. Yeah,
And
so
I
yeah,
think that was Balls Mahoney. I think
it was. Yes, it was.
yeah. So he was doing indies and probably Japan, I would assume.
Number 70 is a guy who is spending his time in 95 putting ECW on the map. 6'1", 247, 30 years pro, the one and only Terry Funk.
I mean, there's nothing bad. I mean,
We've
nothing. I don't want to say let's not talk about Terry Funk, but what can we say that hasn't already been said about Terry Funk
on this podcast? Like we,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Between this show and our other show, Terry Funk's probably been brought up just as much as almost anybody. So,
yep,
we're all big fans of the Funker.
Where's the old Funker right now?
There's the old Funker right now.
Like that off-air footage or whatever with Vince McMahon and Jim Ross at that Shotgun Saturday Night. Remember the one they did in Texas where Steve and Terry Funk got in that fight?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
Where you did see it?
Mm-hmm.
Where like Vince is giving direction and Jim Ross is just singing family traditions. It's a bit family tradition. I don't know why it's so funny to me.
Let's see here. Number 69 is Stan Hansen.
Yeah. I don't mean to sound like that.
No, I was just looking here because in 95, I think he's just.
It's funny because like when we're getting into these bigger names, like I start to try to more think about what they were doing. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't think he was doing much other than just wrestling in Japan in 95 because his write-up is more just about what he's done in the past. But I'm sure he's still beating the fuck out of people in Japan.
Yeah.
I got a fat wife and a fat kid at home.
6. I ain't ever been number 6 in anything in my entire goddamn life. That's my favorite part of it. I know I like the fat wife and the fat thing, but yeah, number 6. I just always like, I ain't never been number 6 in anything in my goddamn life.
Number 68 is the guy everybody knows I was a Mark IV back in the day, the Patriot. 95, he's part of Stars and Stripes with Marcus Alexander Bagwell in WCW. I'm a Del Wilkes fan, so.
Me too. And he goes to WWF. I know he didn't, but I'm saying like I think his career trajectory. He goes to WWF right after he leaves WCW. Bigger deal.
Yeah. By the time he came in,
he was hurt for one.
He was hurt, and they were evolving into the Attitude Era kind of thing where he'd never. I mean, unless they'd have turned him heel in some sort of way against America.
They were already wanting to get him out of that mask. if you remember, they did promos, like video shoots where he was Del Welks, and they even showed his face.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he was doing the gimmick of, you've seen my face, but I'm really Del Welks, but when I go in the ring, I wear the mask so I don't, because I represent everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That type of thing or whatever. But yeah, they were already gonna get him away from wearing that mask. But he said and I listened to an interview where he said he completely lied to the WWF when he went there.
About his condition. Yeah.
Yeah. He said if they would have known what was really wrong with me, they would have never hired me. He just wanted that on his resume.
Number 67 is Scott Putski, former global North American champion, now wrestles in several independent promotions as Conan 2000.
Call him what you want. I don't like him.
66. We can agree this guy's great. I love how they have the write up here that it's not just Bobby Eaton, but because he's in the Blue Bloods, he is Earl Robert Eaton.
Earl Robert Eaton. That was a great gimmick. I thought.
I did too.
And I think I've brought it up before, but my favorite part of their shtick was the fact that Regal would beat up the Butler chives, as Dusty called him, and like Bobby would pick him up and like dust him off and be nice. It's like, all right, man, it's cool.
It's all right. Southern hospitality, yeah.
Yeah, it's like my mama was a servant, or you know what I mean? Like my mama was a waitress or whatever. Like he picked chives up and help him out.
And it was funny that.
Oh, sorry.
I was to say it was funny that the guy's name was Jeeves, but Dusty called him Chives.
Chives. That's what I'm saying. Like if you watch, like I said, you watch Nitro '95. There's good matches and stuff, but it's kind of boring. But like the really good stuff of 1995 WCW is buried in all those Saturday nights and the worldwides, and
that's why. And I think it's cool. I think it's cool that on WWE Vault, I don't know if they do it every week, but for a while on WWE Vault, at 6:05 on Saturday nights, they were broadcasting like WCW Saturday nights from '95 for a while.
Yeah.
Thought it was cool that they were doing that, but I would love it if they would release more of that era of Saturday night. Like on Peacock, it only goes through like early '93, I think, and then it cuts off.
Because I won't count '94 because it goes through all of '93 because they have like a month and a half of like 1994, or not even a month and a half, like a month of like '94, then it just cuts out. So I don't know why. I don't know why it's like that, but it is. And it's like, I wish that shit would just get released. Because like I said, it's like Saturday night and worldwide was still what WCW was before Hogan got there, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, because he didn't care about the show. So he wasn't imposing his creative control or whatever on those broadcasts.
Yeah. And Bischoff wasn't fucking writing that shit and booking that shit.
Number 65 is Kama. Of course, the Supreme Fighting Machine in '95. He's a member of the corporation. Charles Wright, of course, the Godfather, Kama Mustafa, Kama, Papa Shango. Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, is probably the lesser of the Charles Wright gimmicks.
Yeah. Of that time. I mean, there's only one that I'd probably put under it. But, I mean, it would be the Good Father. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Kama I thought he looked cool. You know what I mean? But yeah, the gimmick was kind of boring.
At 64 is Kenta Kobashi, one of All Japan's most talented stars. He excels in both technical and aerial wrestling. Nicknamed Orange Crush for his orange outfits, has had several tag team titles with Mitsuharu Misawa.
They should have brought him in to feud with Purple Crush. The WWE. I
63.
posted that one. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, go
I don't know
ahead.
if you remember that. I posted that once that I had a purple crush for sale, and actually had some people be like, "Really? Yeah, I got this purple crush. I'm only selling it for $50." And people are like, "Let me see the condition." And then I just posted a bottle of purple crush. But anyway, go ahead.
It's one of the few Hasbros I don't own because I won't pay as much as people want for it. I
Yeah,
refuse.
I won't pay that type of money for a fucking action figure.
Not for a piece of not for a piece of plastic. Nope.
Yeah.
63. My man, Savio Vega.
Yeah. It's like I don't know what I was about to say.
I bet he was super happy when they were like, you know what? Quang is done. We just want you to be you. He was probably like, fucking A.
Thank God. There's that 94 Rumble where he's like being goofy just for himself and the boys, though. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he's like not even hitting anybody. He's just walking around the ring doing kung fu poses and stuff.
But in
Yeah, it's like
95, he gets to become Savio Vega. He comes to the aid of Razor Ramon against Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie. And that all kind of it actually was fortuitous for him. I hate to say it, but he lucked out because Kid got hurt. And they needed somebody to pair up with Razor Ramon.
yeah.
So
they really could be like, it's like Quang can't just become friends with Razor Ramon. I just always think it would be funny if you just got like they still evolved your character, but you had to stick with the name that you had.
Yeah. Coming up tonight at In Your House, this big rivalry comes to a head. The $1 Million Man's guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin, in a Caribbean strap match against Quang. Well, not Caribbean, but in a strap match.
Well, no, like he gets the Caribbean gimmick, but he has to keep his name. the Caribbean Puerto Rican sensation Quang. Coming down the nation of domination, Crush.
Who literally got the name Quang because it sounded like the fucking
it was a sound effect from a Japanese movie or whatever. From what I heard, I don't know if that's what you heard, but that's what I heard. Yeah.
62, Dustin Rhodes. And he's 95.
He should be higher, I think.
Huh?
I think he should be ranked higher, but that's all right.
95, he ends his WCW career at Uncensored, which was kind of a setup job. They told him and Blacktop Bully they weren't allowed to bleed. And then they gave him that fucking match where they wrestled on the truck.
And Mike Graham told him to bleed.
Mike
Graham should have been fired.
The person who came up with the idea for that stupid match should have been fired. But anyway, I guess you could say he turned that shit into gold, because later in the year he becomes Gold Dust, which at first people were very weary of and didn't really understand. I remember
the first time I think you were the
top hat
you did, but the first time I saw it, I laughed my ass off. And then when he came out and then he took his hair off, I was like I thought that was even funny. Like when he showed up, I'm like, what is Dustin doing? And he's got hair, like long hair. And then he came out like for his first appearance and he got up on the apron or on the ropes and there wasn't any like, I want to say it like, and I know why, but there wasn't any warning that it was going to happen. And he gets up on the ropes and he's like, how do you get that long hair so fast? And then he takes it off and you're like, oh my God. And you're laughing, but at the same time, you're like, this is the greatest fucking thing ever. I don't know. And like you said, he's about to become Gold Dust, and his WCW ending wasn't that great. I don't know. I just I think that company wanted to get rid of him, in my opinion, and he probably wasn't too upset about leaving anyway. Because I think this is right about the time when he had his fallout with his old man anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, he took a gamble on a Vince McMahon idea that could have went. It's one of those things like Goldust. It was either going to work or it really wasn't going to work. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you did that with anybody else, it would have never worked.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like the Undertaker.
Yeah. I like in this book, like when Vince is like, "You're gonna be androgynous," and Dustin's like, "Cool, man, I get it." And then he's like, I hung up, and I was like, "I don't know what that means. I better look it up." And then he was like, "Oh no."
61, Brian Pillman.
uh, Still with WCW,
Yep,
right?
95. He's still with WCW. For some of 95, he hit him and Austin. Didn't him and Austin break up in 95? Right. That's when he does like the chicken soup
Uh,
shit with.
that was before that. That was '94.
Okay. Okay. So in 95, I guess he kind of floats around for a little bit because then the next memory that I have is him forming the Horsemen, being a part of the new Horsemen.
He's got that point of his career where he's like, he has a really good match on a pay-per-view with Mark Marrow. That's how you know it is good, because I said it was a really good match with Mark Marrow. And he's just kind of a baby face guy on the show. Like, he's not really doing anything that I can
Yeah, that's what
remember.
I'm saying. He's just kind of floating around. That's why I don't know why I thought the chicken suit shit happened in 95, but yeah, you're right.
No, it
It's
was '94. This is that time. Do you remember? You probably don't remember the song, because I know I'm more of a WCW guy than you are. But this was when he had that California Girl
Oh yeah,
song or
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and they were just trying to make him like a white meat baby face again. It's like, this guy's past that. You know what I mean? Like, he's not that anymore. Guy's a heel now, in my opinion. And then
And then
fucking
he
Kevin Sullivan finally reminded everybody of that shit.
and then him and Arn Anderson are in the situation that you were just discussing earlier with Sting. Like if you turn on me, Flair.
Yeah, like they finally put him with Arn, and made him a heel again, and we get into this angle. It's like, and Sting's like, "You better not turn on me." And guess what? Everybody turned on you, you moron.
Number 60 is the Sandman. And of course, ECW champion during 1995. Another one of the core, I guess you'd call the pillars of ECW.
He's one of the four pillars of ECW. Definitely. I also always thought it was crazy that he was Vince McMahon's favorite ECW guy.
Yeah.
Like, of all the guys, that was the guy that's like, "I like that Sandman."
Yeah, the guy that's an alcoholic, cigarette smoking, fucking rude, unprofessional, non-corporate.
Yeah, that's the guy right there. I don't know if maybe he was like, he looks like he shit on a chick. Like, I don't know if that's what it was. But yeah, it's like, out of all those people, Sandman was his favorite.
And he was for what he was perfect.
Yep.
I'm never going to say that Sandman was a fucking 5-star wrestler, anything like that, but for what he did, he was perfect. And it worked, and it was entertaining, and I dig the Sandman, man. I think his shit in ECW was cool.
And I agree, and I, in some ways, kind of compare it to, um, like, kind of what I say about like New Jack, because you could say the same thing about him. You know what I mean? Like, New Jack's never gonna have a 5-star match, but he still had the fundamentals of it.
Yeah.
Like Sandman didn't start out as a hardcore wrestler. He started out as working in Memphis and being a fucking wrestler. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not saying he was the greatest wrestler in the world, but he had the fundamentals that if he needed to, he could wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of those hardcore guys, I kind of don't have as much. Like I won't. I'm trying to get to a point. I don't know where I respect those guys more than I respect like I guess Supreme from Extreme from XPW or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're not really a fucking wrestler. Like Sandman was a fundamental wrestler that got into the hardcore game. Same way with New Jack. Like New Jack said, I earned my right to do this because I learned that flippity floppity shit from the Rock and Roll Express. You know? So that's why I kind of respect some of those guys. And that's why I think ECW is a step above all them other hardcore things too, because that's
no
kind of
doubt.
what Paul wanted.
No
Paul
doubt.
didn't want some guy that was just fucking the only thing you can do is fall into a fucking flaming
Yeah.
table.
The only thing,
Still
I
need
was
to
gonna
have
say,
some.
the only thing you can do is get set on fire. We can all do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Actually, you need you to do some shit before you do that.
Number 59 is Toshiaki Kawada, still among the elite in All Japan, former tag team partner of Akira Tao. Once defeated Stan Hansen for the Triple Crown Championship. Once again, back to the Japanese wrestling thing. I've seen some Kawada. I haven't seen a lot. I haven't seen a ton because I don't watch a lot of Japanese wrestling. But what I've seen, good wrestler.
All right.
58. At this time, being in the USWA, of course, Brian Christopher.
I was always a fan. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
I was always a fan of Brian. I read something earlier today because I was on break and I just needed something to read, and it was like, um, I hate some of those wrestling things. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like top 10 worst whatever or top 10 best whatever, and
Yeah.
sometimes you can tell like AI wrote it,
Mm-hmm.
But this thing was like, I don't think it was an AI thing, but like it was like top 10 worst popular tag teams in WWF history, and like Too Cool was on it. I'm like, what? That's bad.
These guys were fucking over.
And they were over and they could work. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that gimmick did not suck. I don't know what your fucking deal is. And Brian Christopher, except for towards the tail end of his career when his demons got the best of him, that dude was a fucking hell of a little worker, I always thought.
57 is a guy you and I actually disagree on. We always disagree. We always disagree respectfully. But Aaron and I disagree on this gent because I actually liked him. 57 is Johnny B. Bad.
I don't know. I just never really did it for me. I didn't mind it when he was the heel and was with Teddy Long. I was like, oh, hush, Teddy. I'm just a big old bear. Like that Johnny B. Bad. I'm like, kind of like this guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But when he just kind of became the baby face Johnny B. Bad, I was like, eh.
Yeah, I actually, like I said, I'm a Mark Marrow fan. I think that obviously after he got that knee injury in '97, he was never quite the same in the ring as a wrestler. But like, and I know we're talking about '95. So in '95, he's in WCW. Of course, he's ever present in the television title scene in WCW. I thought he always had good matches. I see what like some people like. I don't know. I honestly don't understand Bruce Prichard's hate for him. The guy performed. He had good matches. I don't know if he just had an attitude or thought he was better than he was or what, but I don't know. I'm a Marrow fan, I guess. I just admit
I saw a blurb where a guy you wouldn't expect said that he thought the WWF dropped the ball with him. You know who it was?
Who?
JBL.
Hmm.
JBL said they dropped the ball with Mark Mero. They should have done some more with him. And even though he couldn't have been Johnny B. Bad, they should have still gave him some kind of flamboyant character like that. You know,
Yeah.
like he said, they saddled him right when he walked in the door, basically. He
And
thought.
I can see that. I can agree with that. But yeah, like I said, and again, everybody doesn't like the same thing. You know, it'd be boring if we all liked the same wrestlers and everything. But
Well,
I like Mark Mero. I'm not gonna diss him.
what was it? Did Bruce Pritchard say it was Mero that wanted to do the Marco or whatever Mero thing, or was that like a rib? I can't remember.
I don't remember either. To be honest with you.
I haven't listened to that guy's fucking show forever.
Same.
But like I said, there's points of his career. Like I said, I enjoyed the oh hush, like that one, you know.
Hush, Teddy.
I'm prettier than 10 different women, you know, like that type of. I liked that part of it. And then honestly, I didn't mind when he was a dickhead to Sable. You know, like when she was wearing that reindeer hat, he's like, "Hey, nice hat," you know, like that type of shit. Like I didn't mind that so much, but just I don't know.
And
The middle of his.
You don't have to.
Okay, let me say this: I'm not a big.
You don't have to justify it. If you don't like him, you don't.
No,
like
I'm just trying to say, like, I don't like babyface Mark Mero. I guess I'll say it that way. I don't mind heel Mark Mero.
Number 56 is Al Snow. He's in Smoky Mountain in 95.
Teaming with Unabomb, probably.
Yeah. He actually by the end of 95, he's doing that stupid Avatar gimmick.
Oh.
He's Avatar. He does the Avatar thing. He's Shinobi. He does the Shinobi. It's funny. The funniest thing about the Shinobi thing is in 96 because he wrestles Shawn after Shawn wins the Royal Rumble in 96. But it's funny because in the same TV taping, he wrestles Shawn as Shinobi, and then he debuts as Leif Cassidy, teaming with Marty Jannetty in the New Rockers. Yeah, in 95, late 95, he comes to the WWF and they do the Avatar thing, which they wanted to base it like on that Karate Fighter shit or whatever.
Yeah,
and then it's Al Snow, poor Al Snow, who's a great wrestler, has a match in front of Vince McMahon live on Raw and botches like 4 times.
Yeah, that's why they made him Shinobi, the Klutzy Ninja or whatever. It's like, well, he's wearing a mask that he's not used to wearing, and it's like, oh my God. You know, it was one of those things where somebody was like, you got to bring Al Snow, and he's great. And he fucked up like 4 times. Vince McMahon's like, this is great. This is the guy.
This is a klutz.
Yeah, it's like Calloway said, like, the first match Vince McMahon saw of him was when his ankle was all fucked up. I think he was working with Lex Luger. It's like, oh my God.
55 is Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund in 95 is pretty much just doing the running for president thing, which has some great shit we've talked about on the show, like the shit.
There's just not a lot of wrestling stuff to talk about on it. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. 54 is Alex Wright.
He debuted the glasses in the clip-on sunglasses in 95. So
he did.
That was the highlight.
54 is Alex Wright. Pretty much late 94 into 95 is his rookie year in WCW.
Heard he was one of the last guys that Jim Barnett was really interested in.
Oh my
boy.
Das Wunderkind. I don't know why I thought it was funny Jim Barnett saying Das Wunderkind, but I just did.
Das Wunderkind.
Das Wunderkind.
My boy.
Oh, what a schnitzel. I'm like a man divided on Alex Wright. Like, I don't know. I literally don't know how I feel about Alex Wright, honestly.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Like the dancing gimmick was stupid or whatever, but it was kind of like once the bell rang, it's like this guy's really fucking good, and he should have went to Vince. But I think by the time that happened, he was burnt out on the business and probably just wanted to go home.
Yeah, he went back
Right.
to Germany after WCW and started a wrestling school over there, and he's done that ever since. I don't know what else he does, but he has a wrestling school in Germany.
So, yeah, so good for him. But no, Alex Wright is a guy that I won't say anything bad about.
53 is Taz, brother. If you wanna hear more about Taz, you can listen to Reliving the Extreme. We talk about Taz literally every week over there. But in '95, he actually spends a
most of.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think he was hurt for most of '95, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. He was dealing with injuries for a lot of '95. Kind of put the kibosh on, because we've been talking now and on Reliving the Extreme. We're into late '96. We're headed toward Barely Legal. They're hyping up all the history between Taz and Sabu. Like, I think that if Taz would not have been hurt for as much of '95 as he was, I think the goal was Taz and Sabu much earlier than it actually happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Which I'm glad it did. It's a happy accident.
52 is Hiroshi Hase, a New Japan star famed for his suplex, has extensive North American experience in Calgary and WCW, former IWGP Tag Team Champ. Hase, another great Japanese professional wrestler. 51 is a man we've been talking about. And you know what? In 1995, you have Big Daddy Cool Diesel running the WWF. He's the man in the WWF. You've got Hulk Hogan. He's the man in WCW. But this man in 1995 is the man in independent wrestling. Tito Santana. Fucking Tito, man. He is the independent, he's the independent big time. Like, he wrestles all the big heels.
Yeah. Everybody wants me.
The AWF, he's like, Bob Orton Jr.
Building this whole goddamn thing around me.
God bless him. I love Tito Santana. He's one of my favorites.
Everybody does, and he was never bad.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
always a stellar worker. Seems like a genuine human being, and yeah, it's just like, from everything it sounds like, I think you might see more stuff of him because I guess he's back kind of working with the WWE. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say like it. The last interview I saw him, it sounded like he didn't really have like a Legends thing going on anymore, but I think he's back with it now because of Hunter. So hopefully that means you might get.
I know Shawn Michaels loves him to death too. So
all of those guys did. Like Sean said, you should drive around being like, "We just want that Tito thing.
Mm-hmm.
Go home with mama and just be happy."
And you know what's funny about that? It's like, for the world of professional wrestling and all the cutthroatedness and the politics and the shit you hear about, all the things that, like, when you hear something about somebody like Tito who everybody likes and they want to, it's like we all aspire, even though we're on drugs and we're fucking assholes and douchebags, we really all aspire to be like this man. It like warms your heart. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, fucking Tito, man. The fucking wrestling nice guy. There aren't a lot of those. And number 50, we'll wrap it up here. The guy who was wrapping it up in 95, Paul Orndorff. Paul Paul Orndorff in 95 at the end of the year, endish of the year, gets attacked by the Horsemen, the whole, pile driver out on the concrete. But earlier in the year, he gets visited by Spivey and his big afro, Gary Spivey and his big white afro.
It wasn't Waylon Mercy's new gimmick.
In one of the worst, God bless him, one of the worst acted and worst segments in wrestling history, the Gary Spivey, Mr. Wonderful.
And it shows that nobody gave a shit. Like, why did that? And you know what the worst part is? That was probably the best takes.
Gary Spivey of the Psychic Friends Network.
You're Mr. Wonderful.
You're wonderful. Say it with me. You're Mr. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
You got it.
That guy.
You got it.
And that guy's still alive, and he's still like wearing that.
The afro is the afro grows. He makes his wig bigger every. It's fucking ridiculous.
And the thing is, like, that's a real guy. You know what I mean?
And people believe that there are people that believe in him.
Yeah. And he's just bilking them for their money.
You got it. You got it. I'm Mr. Wonderful. You're Mr. Wonderful. You got it. It's fucking.
How do you cut that? And how do you come to that? Like, of all the things, like, he thought, like, where did he find it? I know we're supposed to be talking about Paul Orndorff, but you know what I'm saying? Like, where was he like, you know what?
My gimmick.
The best way I can get people to believe that I really am a psychic is to wear this perfectly round white afro. And it's even like propped to my ears, like it doesn't even hang over my ears. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cut like to fit around my ears. I'm gonna wear this all white outfit with this big white afro. That's like perfect. It looks like, I don't know. It looks like big thing. Like, it looks like somebody perfectly scooped cottage cheese with a ice cream scoop. You know, but it's like
he puts it on. He puts it on. Puts it on. He looks in the mirror at himself. He's like, "That's it. You got it.
You got it. It's wonderful." How do you get there? You know what I mean? And my biggest thing is, where did he find it? Like, where did he get that made? Life is people don't realize how insane human existence is. Shit is crazy. The shit we do.
Well, that's going to be the end.
Like, I don't know. Sorry. I was just thinking, like, yeah, we'll end it there. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, it's going to be the end of this week's edition. We made it through 50 like we wanted to. So next week we will do the last 50 of the PWI 500. But before we go, I want to start acknowledging, listeners and stuff that I know I have already, but one of our fans on YouTube, excuse me, one of our fans on YouTube that I have mentioned before, Rigamus11, wanted to acknowledge his comment on last week's show, episode 239, the PWI 500 Part 8 on YouTube, by the way, the WNR Podcast Network. But his comment was on our discussion that you and I were having about when you asked about Ron Simmons. When you think of Ron Simmons, do you think of WCW Ron Simmons? Do you think of WWF Farouk? And we both said where we landed on that. So I wanted to say, Rigamus, thank you for your comment. His comment on that one, Aaron, was, I think of Doom and WCW champ Ron Simmons when I think of Ron Simmons. So I think he kind of landed more on your side than mine.
Nothing wrong with that. Doom's a fantastic team.
Absolutely. One of my favorite tag teams of all time.
And I think his title reign was botched. I think it could have been a bigger deal than what it was. That's not his fault.
But thank you, Rigamus11, for your comment. We appreciate the feedback. You. Anybody that wants to give feedback via our Facebook group, via our YouTube. Send us a message, whatever. Anything you say, anything you want to comment will make the air. We do appreciate the support and the feedback. So, and the participation in the conversation. That's my favorite part. The participation in the conversation, because that's what this fucking show's about, is talking about wrestling and conversation about pro wrestling. So that being said, we're going to sign off. Aaron, any parting words for our listeners this week?
Yep. Like you said, just thanks for listening. Like, share, review. That's the best way to get the show out there.
Yep. If you like it, let everybody know about it and tell them where they can find us on either podcast apps, YouTube, or social media. That being said, I am going to sign us off for this week. We'll see you next time around as we'll finish out the PWI 500 from 1995, the top 50 coming up next week. Have a great week, everybody. Stay warm.